yes, it's about kids, but it's also about families. It's also about workforce. It's about our economy. If we invest in children, there's just such a return on investment. People that had a quality early childhood experience are more likely to be homeowners. They are more likely to be employed full-time. They're more likely to hold a college degree. Building that workforce literally from zero is something that would be super cool to see.
Welcome to the Weld Together podcast by United Way of Weld County, where we share stories of what's possible when a community comes together for good. Today, I'm talking with Adriana Carrillo, Assistant Director of Early Childhood Initiatives at United Way. Today, she's going to share some exciting news with us. So thank you so much, Adriana, for joining the podcast today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
One thing that we like to ask our guests when they come on the podcast is, what's in your cup? I see that you actually have a cup of something with you.
I do.
So what is in your cup, or do you have a favorite beverage?
I actually have a few favorite beverages. Currently, I am drinking jasmine tea with honey because my throat kind of hurts, and I was very nervous about talking on this and my throat hurting. But my go-to drink, I think I have 2 and maybe 3 now. But if I'm feeling coffee, I get a mocha with cinnamon. If I'm feeling like tea, I get a London fog. And I've recently started to have a lot of matcha teas, specifically with lavender.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tried that for the first time earlier this year. Matcha tea with lavender. Oh my goodness, it's so delicious. I love the varied menu of favorite drinks that you like.
Yes.
So if you can tell us a little bit, I'm always curious how people entered into the work that they do. So I'm curious about your path.
It's been an interesting one. So I have been at United Way since 2019, and I've been in a few different roles. But previous to that, I actually grew up born and raised in Greeley. Technically, I live in Eaton now, which is a whole 10 minutes north. So I haven't really left Weld County ever in my life. I went to school here. I went to the University of Northern Colorado, obviously middle school, elementary school, and high school too. I got my degrees in psychology and then environment and sustainability studies. And that had a heavy nonprofit focus. And for my psychology program, I actually interned at a nonprofit. And that's what kind of opened my eyes to this as a field. I never realized it was the field until I started working in it. And growing up, I had volunteered a ton of different places. So I just always lived a very nonprofit-centric life. And actually, when I was done with college, I knew I wanted to go into nonprofit. And I actually really thought I wanted to go into youth. And I worked for the Boys and Girls Clubs, and United Way was hiring a role for a coordinator. And I was like, I'll try it. Like, it's a little bit different, get some different experience. And it opened my eyes to early childhood. So I think I discovered I am more on the early childhood side of the youth spectrum. I just think that there's a lot more you can do that's proactive in early childhood than reactive with youth. And while both are very important, I think it's just more in my wheelhouse to make those proactive investments.
And there is so much. I feel like we wouldn't even be able to cover all the bases, even in an hour. I'm still learning everything that not only is happening in those formative years, but also everything that so many people in the world are doing to try to help support children and their families in those early years. United Way has a few different focus areas, and this is where we funnel all of our resources and our time and our efforts into these particular focus areas where the community has shared that they have the most need. And one of those big, important areas that we talk about a lot because there is so much going on is early childhood. So for those who may be new to early childhood, can you give us a brief introduction into what we mean when we're even talking about early childhood?
Yeah, when we're talking about early childhood, we are really looking at that prenatal to 8 years old space in a child's life which encompasses tons and tons of different things. There's prenatal care, prenatal health. The 0 to 3 space will be most brain development in a human being's entire life. And then that 4 to 5, we're going into kindergarten, preschool, all those big moments, getting ready for school. And then all the way up to 3rd grade, reading is one of the indicators that we've used for a long time. That grade level reading by the end of 3rd grade, which is a huge predictor of a lot of different things. So very pivotal moment in learning and just experiences in that 0 to 8 space.
We were talking with Stacy from the Buell Foundation, and she shared a bit about just how formative those early years are, and that there is some real urgency in this area of service because we can't get those years back for those little kids. If we miss the window, we miss the window.
That is definitely a very important thing. And actually, I have the number of 80% of a child's brain develops in the first 3 years of life.
Wow.
So a lot.
80% of our brains form in those early years. That is wild to think about, isn't it? Wow.
It definitely is.
And United Way is doing so many exciting things. So we're going to get to that in just a second. But in terms of your role as assistant director, what does that involve?
My role is definitely interesting, never boring. I facilitate a lot of the collective impact work that early childhood households and all the partnerships that go into the early childhood realm. And with this community plan, which I'll talk a little bit more, we definitely have different work groups now. We have general membership, we have executive council. So a lot of different groups doing very specific things. So that's probably the bulk of what I do, but I do a few other things. I oversee the Roadmap for Kids, which is an online resource. It literally looks like a roadmap with different map points of different topics that people might be interested in about, like child development, child resources. And then I also plan the Northern Colorado Children's Festival, which is a very large event. It is similar to a resource fair, but very specific to early childhood and different resources, but fun.
And when you say big, how big are we talking?
So last year, we had 3,600 people in attendance and 82 different vendors. We had performances all day. It's big. It definitely used to be bigger pre-COVID, but we're slowly working back to how big it used to be. It just takes time to get people back out to events. So I'm hoping, so April 11th is the next one. We will have another significant increase.
When you're talking about some of the resources and the vendors that are there, what are some of the folks that are showing up to offer their services and their help?
Yeah. So we have a lot of our collective impact partners show up. North Range, the High Plains Library District, a lot of different school districts, childcare providers, different coalitions. I know our FFN Association was there. Our Family Child Care Home Association was there. Dentists, we've had screenings there. Public Health Department, DHS, just so many different things. UNC, a lot. It's a lot. And I'm trying to think of all the different things, but a lot of very specific things to support families, but also fun things because Rocky Mountain PBS was there, Telemundo was there, and they did the whole green screen thing. The Boy Scouts do a Pinewood Derby there. So while there's resources, there's still a lot of really fun activities, and we actually require that all the vendors have a hands-on activity at their booth. So there's learning aspect for parents and children together while they get to know the resource, that kind of stuff. So super fun. And it's an awesome event. And I think this year is going to be the 42nd or 43rd. I should double check before I talk about it. It's been going a very long.
Wow, that is remarkable. I think it's hard to imagine just everything that goes into hosting an event like that. Just bringing all of that together must be such an effort. And yet those are things that they might not have access to any other way. Is that right?
Yes, we actually do a survey. So yes, it is. It's easier than you would think everyone together.
Okay, I'm going to let you say that.
I'm saying that we do love collective impact work. We already have a relationship with a lot of different partners. So it's really just showing up. And it's existed for so long that people know that. So that part is not too bad. But as far as the accessing resources for families. We started doing a survey that was a little bit more in depth than it ever used to be 2 years ago. And one of the questions we asked is if people learned a new resource and whether or not they will use that resource next year. And I want to say close to 90% of people learn a new resource. And 85% or more of those people say they will use it in the next year. So we have started to track that to make sure that we are getting that impact for the intent of the event. So it's super, super exciting. I know that our partners that do attend the event look forward to it. I know that they get a lot of connections from it. And there's always a lot of feedback that they are so thankful that this event exists because it is one of the biggest events for them to go to.
That is so amazing. And I think it is so difficult. Sometimes we don't realize that there are so many people and so many programs out there that are intended to help people. And one of the challenges is letting people know that it exists. And especially parents with little kids are so busy. There's so much on their plates. It is easy to actually miss that some of these resources are available, isn't it?
Absolutely. And for a day where they're all in one place, just makes it a lot easier.
So there is a new early childhood community plan. If you could tell us about that.
Yeah. So we started working on this plan. Oh man, I want to say 2 years ago almost now. We started talking about this. The council has existed for a very long time.
And this is the Early Childhood
The
Council.
Early Childhood Council, yes. It first came together in 2000 and it was called Promises for Children originally, which predates actually Early Childhood Council legislation because we are written into legislation.
Really?
Early Childhood Councils exist throughout the state. Everyone is different because every community is different.
Interesting.
So with all that, we've had plans and we've definitely had work groups and we've had very specific things that we've worked on, but we've never really had a full comprehensive plan for what we want in this community.
Interesting. So when we talk about collective impact is a name of an approach for the nonprofit sector where it's really pulling people together. It's more than just collaboration, right? It's really intentional data sharing, partnership around a particular issue. And United Way is a collective impact backbone, which means that it's the convener of all of these different partners or agencies or businesses even that are all coming together to try to solve a big problem in the community. Would that be a fair way to explain that?
Yes, I think that was actually a really good explanation of it. I think that actually segues really well because the early childhood system is very complex. There is very specific areas that all need to come together to wrap around the family. Some examples of the domains that wrap around family is whole person health and well-being, learning and development, economic mobility, family support and education. So we use that as part of the base around what we're going to start with this plan. And then we move into that collective impact approach with that framework in mind. So understanding that there's no single organization, there's no policy entity that can solve the issues that we're seeing in early childhood. And really moving beyond that partnership into that collaboration space and long-standing commitment.
The Weld Together podcast is brought to you by United Way of Weld County, building powerful partnerships to bring about lasting community-wide change. Learn more at www.unitedway-weld.org.
As you say, early childhood is just a complex arena in and of itself. And then to convene all of these different people together and all of these different organizations together, that is complex. So what is the Early Childhood Council? Because we do hear about the Early Childhood Council. How is the council different from United Way and collective impact?
Yes. In 2000, United Way started a collaborative that was called Promises for Children. In 2007, there's a House bill that passed that put early childhood councils into legislation. And the intent behind them was to improve and sustain the availability, accessibility, capacity, the quality of early childhood services throughout the state. So they were really having a local focus because they realized that there was just so many different challenges and complexities between all the different communities in the state of Colorado. And so what that means now is that 20, 25 years later, that we have a standing group that's focused on early childhood in our community, stakeholders, different organizations, community partners, parents, child care providers, like anyone that you can think of that is part of the system that has had relationships as far as resource sharing, different information, some partnerships, some collaborations. And we have channeled that into a collective impact space under United Way.
I thought that the early childhood council was like a separate group of people or organizations. I'm interested to hear that it's actually tied to the legislation for the state.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it really is that collaborative space.
So that means that it is on the state's radar, and the state will help funnel funding into early childhood programs, but it changes and we don't exactly know how much.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
So that adds another dynamic to your work then, doesn't it?
It definitely does. I will say that one of the things that actually is included in the legislation for councils, one of the things that we are supposed to do as a council is seek local funding to supplement anything that we want to do that may not address all the community needs. So we do actively pursue funding.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I think my brain is maybe beginning to wrap around all that you do. So if you could tell us what is in the early childhood community plan.
Yes. So we really got a lot of different stakeholders and voices throughout the process. It wasn't in any way us saying, this is what we're going to do. It was, what are we going to do? The purpose of the Early Childhood Council in Weld County is to be a community partnership that increases awareness of the importance of early childhood development and facilitates accessible pathways of services leading to lifelong well-being for all children prenatal to 8 years of age. And the vision is to create an environment where children are valued, healthy, and great. That kind of sets the stage a little bit for what is all included in the plan. We did a lot of data digging when we originally started this plan, and we are continuing to get deeper in our data now that we're a little bit more specific on what our different strategies are. But with that plan, we ended up talking to 135 different voices and perspectives. We actually did have some surveys before we started the official plan for parents, and that was 310 additional voices. So it was very comprehensive with trying to get different voices and different community partners, focus groups, steering committee, interviews, retreats, survey, just every different kind of medium you can imagine, and collecting all the different voices. But in that process, we ended up with 5 different strategies, and those strategies are removing barriers and streamlining access to support families.
So removing barriers is really like making sure that they understand what's available.
Understand, know, and can actually even make it. Because we know that the barriers are transportation, communication, stigma, and obviously lack of awareness. But that's the first one. The second is maintain and strengthen a unified network. So obviously we're going to continue to meet. We're going to continue to bring new partners in. The third is design and implement scalable childcare funding. So we know that childcare is not very affordable in Weld County, and we need to partner better with local businesses and workforce to really start understanding how the lack of childcare, especially affordability and accessibility, impact the overall workforce, and advocating for more funding, that kind of thing. The fourth is to have specific support for rural, immigrant, and multilingual communities. We wanted to really specifically call out the diversity in Weld County because we do have the rural, we even have the frontier communities, And then if you get to the Greeley area, we have tons of different languages and a lot of different immigrants and refugees. So many different kind of micro communities that we need to focus on in different ways because the needs and barriers are going to be a little bit different for each community.
I'm curious, in your experience in Weld County, do you think a lot of people understand just how diverse it actually is?
No, I don't think so. I think that when people think of Weld County, if they're not in Weld County, they think of it as either Greeley or farms and nothing in between. And that really is not the case. Yes, we do have farms. We are a really large agricultural community, but there is a lot of other things that we do here, and there's a lot of different geographies. And one of the things that we're talking about actually in one of the work groups is the difference between North Weld County and South Weld County as far as like rural communities. They're very different, like even demographically. I don't think people realize how complex we are, but we're also growing so much in population. I think is another huge thing that people are starting to acknowledge us because of that fact. We are the fastest growing county in the state as far as child population. Between 2019 and 2023, the state had a decrease of 28,000 children. In Weld County, we had an 8% increase, which was over 6,000 more children in 3 years, which is just mind blowing. And we're expected to continue to grow in all ages, but especially that child population. But we do have a lot of those like 20, 30 age people that are going to have young children. And I think that actually elevated the importance of this plan because we already know that access is limited, that the barriers exist, that there's certain areas of the county that are not being served in the way they need to be served. And we're growing. So we need to really figure it out.
So all of those kids are then coming into the county that is already stretched thin on resources.
Yeah, for sure. So once we had the strategies together, we started talking about like, how are we going to start working? We obviously need work groups to do this. And we ended up landing with 3 different work groups. We have the barriers work group, which is really focused on that family piece, all the barriers that they're encountering. They have some really cool things in their work plan. We also have the workforce work group, and they are focused on 2 things. They are focused on the early childhood workforce because we know that there is a need for early childhood professionals. There is other early childhood careers that we need more of, like speech language therapists, especially in other languages. I want to say in the nation, only 6% of licensed speech language pathologists speak another language other than English, and that's in the whole nation.
Wow.
And when you think of Weld County, 20% of our population speaks a language other than English.
That's a huge number.
We also have our advocacy and policy work groups. So things that can affect child care providers, paying attention to legislation that may make it more restrictive, those unintended consequences to the field, that kind of thing. They all have very specific work plans for all those work groups, which is super exciting. We're actually starting to see some really exciting things happening there. Definitely still going to take like time to play out and see like the impact that they'll have, but getting really good people to the table that just are doers and movers, and it's amazing.
Can you give us an example of something that's already in motion?
Yeah, so we're super digging into data and stuff, and part of it is because I'm crazy and I've been in grad school and I decided to do my research project.
Are you in grad school now?
Yeah, I actually just finished literally like last week. So
Oh, you did? Congrats. Oh, that's really exciting. It's such hard work. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. But I did my research project on that, and I targeted Fort Lupton, and they have a higher need population, heavy Spanish-speaking population, a lot of agriculture work in that community, and then a high ALICE population, asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So a lot of working families that maybe make more money than they could to get benefits. So they can't get CCAP, they can't get staff, they can't get all those other things because they make too much money, but they're also like a flat tire away from not paying their mortgage or rent. So those really in-between families. So with that, I was able to do a survey, interview the community, come out with some pretty interesting, like specific target needs in that community. To have only started in August and already have like really tangible things we can do in a community, I think is pretty cool. It is really exciting. And now we need to find some other grad students to do it in some other communities.
Okay. We're calling out to all grad students.
Yes, all grad students. If you need a project, we have a really good ideas for you.
Love that.
I have a base for you. I already have a survey ready. You just gotta go out and do it.
That's right. We will help you. So if we can go big picture for a moment, and if you were to imagine this 5-year plan in motion, what is the vision? What looks different about Weld County if this plan is successful?
I think the biggest thing that we would see is more people in Weld understand the importance of early childhood and are actively investing to bring money, effort into the overall success of families and realizing that, yes, it's about kids, but it's also about families. It's also about workforce. It's about our economy. If we invest in children, everyone thrives. There's just such a return on investment, cost savings. And again, I would say immediate and future, because immediate, like you think of the families that are able to work. Like those kinds of things can be really impactful in the here and now, but also 20 years from now, people that had a quality early childhood experience are more likely to be homeowners. They are more likely to be employed full-time. They're more likely to hold a college degree. Building that workforce literally from zero is something that would be super cool to see.
What you just said shows us just the enormous scope of change that's possible when it's rooted in early childhood. It's amazing that is actually the starting point for all of these other impacts that ripple out from that. It's so compelling.
Why early child?
I'm just over here. I don't even know what to say because my mind is just blown. I think most of us, we think about kids, and of course, we all want our children to be happy. All of us want to see children thrive. It's just astonishing how many other elements of a community and an adult life and a family's life all hinge on that early childhood development stage as well as the children.
It is really crazy.
If there was just one thing across the whole landscape of early childhood, everything that United Way is doing, every child is different. Every family is different. Every neighborhood in Weld County is different. There are so many different variations that you're working with when it comes to early childhood. And there's so many different services. If there was just one thing that you would want people to take away from this, just one thing that you would really like them to know and just carry with them, what would that be?
That's a really good question. I get asked this every once in a while, and I'm always like, there's so much. I would say that I think of a lot of challenges in the world today, that this one is very attainable. It is the least expensive to invest in to really see results and have the greatest impact. I do think that if we really want to see a change in our community, that is one of the top things that we need to focus on. And again, focusing on early childhood is proactive and not reactive. It's preventative and not putting a Band-Aid on anything. Just that return on investment. For every dollar, it's usually about $18 in return. And I've actually seen numbers way higher than that recently. But if you start focusing on like food, health, other things, it can get up to $46, $50 for every dollar invested back through. It shows like anything you invest in early childhood will have an impact.
If somebody is listening to this or they're reading the newsletter and their mind is also blown by all of this, and they feel that impulse of, I would like to do something, even if it's a small thing or if it's a big thing, where would you recommend that people start if they want to help contribute to the early childhood community plan?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me. I am happy to sit down, have a conversation, see where the interests are, see what like pieces would really hit home, even if it's a small project, if it's joining a work group, if it's sharing information to other people in the community, if it is donating, if it's volunteering, whatever that looks like, I almost guarantee that I can find a place for anyone interested.
For all the complexities, it's a lot of opportunity to do what makes your heart happy.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would like folks to know?
You can access this full plan online. If you want your mind blown with some more data, please look at the report. There is an amazing section on data, and some of it may make your stomach drop because the need is so large in the area. But some of it is positive, and I think the work towards it is very positive. But definitely for data nerds, look at it. There's some really good stuff in there.
Last question that we like to ask everybody. We asked what was in your cup. What fills your cup? How do you keep going in the midst of all of this?
I think what keeps me going in this work is there is a community, and we have partners that continue to come to the table and continue to have these conversations and be an advocate for early childhood and all the supports. It is just crazy to me. I mean, I'll choke up a little bit. This work has been going on that long, and there is just so many people that dedicated in our community to the vision of children being valued, healthy, and thriving, and loved young.
The whole early childhood team at United Way is just, you all do so much, and we're just so grateful that you're there.
Yeah, I love United Way. We have some pretty incredible here.
Adriana, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Happy New Year.
I hope you get some rest.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. Join the caring power of the United Way of Weld County community. Visit unitedway-weld.org, where you can learn more about our projects, find great volunteer opportunities, and donate. Special thanks to our cornerstone partners, our leadership givers, and the many individuals who make our work and this podcast possible. The music you heard today is by Alex Productions. I'm Diana Smith, your host. Thank you again for listening to the Weld Together podcast. And until next time, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and remember, even a little good can go a very long way.